Welcome back to Ben's Garage. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the Range Rover that we've had for just over a year. We got it last, I'm trying to think, end of April. We insured it at the end of April. We picked it up at last May. Farmer. So we've had it just over a year. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a review. Not so much of a review, but how much it's actually cost us in a year's ownership. I did a video on this before on the TD6. We was quite lucky with that year. That didn't really cost us a lot. But I'll go through everything. I'll work out how much fuel we've used with the mileage. It's now on 130,583 kilometres. I'll convert that into miles, but I think it had, I can't remember if it was 124,000 or 126,000 when we got it. That's kilometres, so it's not miles. Basically, it's been a fantastic car. I mean, I love Range Rovers anyway, so, you know, even if it had problems, I'd still love it. Like the TD6, it's sat around there, it's in bits. I still can't bring myself to not like the car. There's something about I think it's a bit like a Marmite car. You either love it or you hate it. Some people treat it as just a car, and when it breaks down, it's the bloody car. If you're into Land Rovers, or especially Range Rovers, as you know, as I am, when something happens, it's like, oh well, it's just another one of them quirky things, isn't it? But anyway, they can be expensive to own if you don't do your research properly before buying it. There are things that you need to budget for that could go wrong. They don't. You see, on the internet, if you have a problem with your car and you go searching, you'll find loads, 10 to 20 cars with the same fault. Now, out of all the thousands of cars, Range Rovers that Land Rover have made, 10 to 20 or even a couple of hundred cars that have had this fault, in the grand scheme of things, isn't that much, really. That's the way I see it. You only hear about the negative stuff on the internet. You don't hear people saying, this car's been wonderful, I kept it serviced and it's never broken down. Anyway, we won't go into a bit of a rant on it, but I'll go through, we'll break down how much it's cost, how much it costs to register it in France, because that's another bone of contention. I have people commenting saying, oh, I couldn't afford that car in the UK because the tax is £500 a year and it's this and it's that. But I'll run through everything that it's cost, how much it's cost for us, what we've actually spent on it, and I've not serviced it yet. We are due to service it at some point, but we've got nowhere to do it at the minute. If you've seen our other videos, we've got 30 tonne of chalk here, which is for the garage floor. It's not, mileage wise, it's not due for a service, but time wise it is. But I'd like to give it an oil change at least, so I'll count that into, I'll factor that into the costs for the year, and yeah, I'll do all that indoors because it looks like it's set to rain here. It absolutely chucked it down when I was out earlier, so we'll do the rest of this video inside. So we've got ourselves indoors. It's raining, absolutely chucking it down out there. We got in just in the nick of time. So I'm just going to talk over how much the Range Rovers cost to run for a year. Now, this is all, a lot of it's average price costs and things like that. I've worked out some sums. I was sort of shocked, but not, if you know what I mean. Because a couple of the things that we've spent money on, it's optional. We didn't have to do it. The car was running fine. But I just thought, well, everything that is related to the car that we've bought over the last year, I would add to this video, so you get a fair idea of how much it's cost us to run this car, and then there's nothing hidden then. So let's start at the beginning. We bought the car. We paid a little bit more than we would have done if we bought the car in the UK, but this is France. Second-hand car prices in France are quite expensive, which is good for the resale value if we ever wanted to get rid of it, but we're probably going to keep this car for as long as we possibly can. So I won't go into how much we paid for it, but We could probably have got it a lot cheaper in the UK, but then you've got the trouble is you're in a different country. It's the steering wheel's on the wrong side, so we bought it in France. Now in France, you have to pay to register your car, basically. You pay a one-off fee. After 2009, they introduced what they called a malus tax, which gets paid on any new vehicle that's sold in France. The first buyer of the car normally pays that tax. If they sell the car on, the next buyer doesn't pay it because it's already been paid for. But the registration costs, they take into account the power that the car outputs and the CO2 emissions. So they work out the cost through the power and the CO2 emissions, plus there's a regional tax as well, and it all adds up. And when we bought the car, it cost us 950 euros to register the car, just register it. That's a one-off fee. You know, there's no annual road tax every year, so you know, it sounds expensive, but you only pay it once. Unless you're a type of person that changes your car every couple of years for whatever reason, we just paid it and that's it, job done. With certain cars, you know, in France this is, you have to pay every year, depending on the CO2 emissions of the vehicle, I think it's about 160 euros a year. You get taxed for a high output car with high emissions. Because I'm registered disabled, I get exempt from that yearly fee, and that's the only car we've got that has that yearly charge. The TD6 hasn't got it, the Audi hasn't got it, because they're all old. You know, the TD6 is 2002, the Audi's 2005, the Panda is 1988. So the TD V8 is the only one that we get charged per year, but we're exempt. So that's the first cost. I'll add it all up, put it on the screen, whatever. Secondly was insurance. Now, our insurance lapsed while I was in hospital. We had the truck, but we still insured the truck. Tina went up to the insurance office to reduce the cover to like third party fire and theft, just so that it was insured while it was parked up on our drive. You know, you can't have a vehicle in France, even if you have it laid up in the garden, it has to be insured. I think the only way you can uninsure it is if you can prove that the car is off the floor and it's undrivable. Anyway, because for whatever reason, we couldn't get, they call it, in the UK you get a discount, no claims discount. Over here they call it a bonus malus. And the insurance company that we were with, they lost whatever. We couldn't have proof of the bonus malus. So basically we were starting again with no claims. So insurance for that car for the first year was about 850 euros. We'll go for 800. The registration was 950. The insurance was about 800. So that was that. This year, actually putting Tina down as a named driver, that's come down to 600 euros. Why? Obviously I've got an extra year of bonus malus, and adding Tina for some reason dropped it right down. Anyway, that's the insurance for what the first year cost us. A couple of things, only one thing really went wrong with the car, and that was the wipers. As you might have seen in previous videos, if you look back in our Range Rover videos, the wipers packed up. That was fixed under warranty, so I've no idea how much that cost. It didn't cost us anything, so I've not listed that on here. If it was a wiper motor, they're about £200, but I've not listed that in it because it's under warranty. We didn't pay for it. The next couple of items, optional extras. if you was to buy this particular car, you don't have to have this done, or you don't have to buy this particular gadget that we bought. But because we've had it done on the car, we've spent money on it, we bought the gadget that goes for the car, I'll add it to the costs of what we spent on the car last year. So we had the remap and the EGR valve done. Now, you don't have to have it done. There's a lot of people out there that say all for it, and there's other people that say no, manufacturers designed it for this, that, and the other. For whatever reason, if you have it done, we had it remapped, we had the EGR valves deleted from the ECU. If we had just that done, it was €360. But I bought a blanking kit, which blanks the EGR valves off altogether. The garage at the same time as doing the remap fitted the blanking kit, and they charged us €420 for the whole lot. So that was that. The second item is the Gap IID tool. Now, we had the iCar Soft diagnostic tool, which does a good job, but the Gap tool, if you're into Range Rovers, Land Rovers or whatever, you'll know that the Gap tool is an invaluable piece of technology. It really is a good bit of kit. Because we're planning on keeping this car long term, we decided that we would get the Gap tool to diagnose any faults. We can use it to go into the ECU to change any CCF files that we want to do. It's a good investment for the car. We've got the 2 Range Rovers, so it will do both Range Rovers. Eventually, when the TD6 is up and running, and I will get the license so that we can get into all the files on the TD6. I think a new license is about £60. So on the Gap tool, we spent €450. So it's optional. So the €420 for the remap, you don't have to have it done. The €450 for the Gap tool, you don't have to have that. So that's nearly €1,000 that you wouldn't have had to have spent. We decided to. So that's that. As it's coming up for a year, we're about due to give it a good service. Not mileage wise, because we've done, what did I put? We've done 6,100 kilometres in a year. It was 124,400 when we bought it. It's now on 130,585 kilometres, which equates to about 3,800 miles. So mileage wise, it's probably not due for a service, but we're going to give it one anyway. Now, I've just priced up all the parts. So it's oil filter, air filter, fuel filter, cabin filter, and the amount of oil for that engine. That comes in at €143, and that's all Bosch parts and good grade oil. So 140 quid for all the parts to service that engine. Obviously there's other parts on the car that need servicing as well, but get the engine serviced, €140, because we can do the job ourselves. That's on the list as well. So the next thing is the battery. I don't know if you've seen in the other videos that we've put out, the battery's been causing problems. We think it's the battery. We've put the Gap tool on, and it shows that it's charging at 14 volts. You put the lights on, you put all the aircon and everything, it charges at 14 volts. When you put the heated rear screen on, it drops down to 13.8. You put the heated front screen on, it drops down to 12.5 at idle. But that's a lot of draw on that battery, with all the lights on main beam, all the aircons on, heated rear screen, and then you put the front one on, it pulls it down to 12.5, but you just touch the throttle and it goes back up to 13.8 again. So I'm quite confident that the battery's charging, the alternator's charging, but the battery's sort of just, it's not quite taking the charge as it should. It is branded as a Land Rover battery, so it could be the original battery. I don't know, but I've ordered a new battery. It's more powerful than the one that's on it. That was €127. So it's not bad, because other companies I was looking at was about €250 for the a similar battery but not quite as powerful. We've got that job to do in a couple of days. Well, probably do it tomorrow if it's not raining. That'll be another video for you. So that's pretty much all of that covered. I have worked out what I think we might have spent on fuel over the 6,000 kilometres, which is about 3,800 miles. Now what I'm going on is an average fuel consumption of 24 miles per gallon. Since we've had the remap done and we go out for a long run on decent roads, we can get over 30 miles to the gallon easily. But then you've got your other side where you're going through town, it can drop below 20 to the gallon. So I'm doing an average of 24 miles to the gallon across the board. You know, this is all averages, so it's not a ballpark, it's not like the spot on figure, but so I'm sort of working that out. Now over the last year, diesel has cost anywhere from $1.47 a litre right up until lockdown, when it dropped down to $1.10 a litre. So I've worked out these prices as, again, at an average of $1.25 a litre. And going on that, the fuel that we've put in the car over the year, 4,000 miles, is 890 euros. I think that's right. If you think every time you fill it up it's about 110 euros, you know, we filled it up a few times. We don't do massive miles in it. Obviously it's getting used all the time at the moment because the other one's not working. We've got to get Tina's Panda up and running. I mean, it's running and it's fine, but we want to give it a service, change the cam belt, all that kind of thing. So it'll probably be doing even less mileage for the next year. So yeah, that's all ballpark figures. Obviously the bits that we've spent out on insurance, registration and that's pretty much an accurate figure, but I've just done like an average for the fuel consumption. So over the year, it's cost us to run that car 3,780 euros. So if you took like the optional bits off, like the remap and the gap tool that we bought, you can take 1,000 euros off that, so 2,700, which sounds a lot, but for the sort of car that it is, I don't, you know, if you work out how much your car costs to run over the year, you know, obviously you might do more miles, but anyway, I thought that was reasonable. Obviously next year it will probably cost less, because hopefully we won't be putting a battery on it, we won't be buying the remap, we won't be buying the gap tool. Insurance has dropped down to 600 already. We probably won't be doing the miles in it, and there you go. I ran through the simulator for registration on the French website. Now if we was to buy it this year, because the car's a year older, the price of the registration goes down a little bit. This year, instead of being 950 euros, it would be 827. And then when a car gets to a certain age, it goes to half price. When we registered the TD6, I believe that was about 270 euros. Because of its age and the power output, that was about 270. When we bought the Audi, that was about 280, because the Audi is about as powerful as the TD6. When Tina bought the Panda, I think that was 170 euros to register that. They're one-off payments. You pay it once and that's it. You know, there's no road tax every year, because I've had a lot of people commenting saying, well, you know, it's all very well saying how cheap they are to run and this, that and the other. But in the UK, that's going to cost you 500 a year in tax before you even start. So, you know, you've got your tax, you've got your insurance. Luckily in France, we have an MOT every 2 years. So that didn't come into the first year's costs. We will have to take it for a CT in December this year. So that will obviously be a cost for this year. But it didn't come into the first year of ownership. So I'm quite pleased with that, really. I know we've got some extras that we've put on there, but overall, quite chuffed. Cars cost money. Doesn't matter what car you've got. I remember I passed my test. In fact, it was before I passed my test. I had my granddad's car. He let me have his car. It was Mark II Escort. Dad drove it from Kent up to Lincolnshire, and we went into, I think it was Halfords in Boston. I think it was a motoring shop anyway. But it's when Halfords was like little shops on the high street, not like these big super shops they are now. And I think I bought some speakers, that's right. And the bloke said to me, obviously I was there with my dad, and he said, "Oh, first car, sir." I was like, "Oh, yeah." All really excited. He said, "I'll tell you something now." And I always remember this. He said, "As soon as you get your first car, you will never have any money." And he was right. Cars cost money. Simple as that. Before we bought it, the previous owner put 4 brand new tyres on it. That was about €1,100 for 4 tyres. They are pretty good tyres. They're Continentals, and they're really, proper pucker-ding tyres. We didn't have to pay out for that. And the mileage that we do, they'll hopefully last for a couple more years. But yeah, so I thought I'd do this little video. We've had it for a year. I've done some review videos. We've had some drive-alongs. I just thought I would let you know what we've spent on the car over a year. Obviously, you could go years where you can spend very little. You could just pay for your insurance, pay for your fuel, and a bit of servicing. Or you might get a year where you have to replace, say, a gearbox, and if you had to take it to a garage, that could cost you anywhere up to £5,000. I don't know. Obviously, jobs like that we're going to try and do ourselves, because we don't really want to be paying other people to do it. I've got the knowledge. It's just having the capability. Now I'm in the wheelchair, but we get most jobs done. Hope you enjoyed this video, and it's been a bit of an insight. And owning a Range Rover isn't quite as scary as it sounds. You're going to want to take a contingency budget, just in case sort of thing. So I always have a little bit of money stashed away somewhere for that what if situation. If something was to go, say a diff goes, or the gearbox goes, or something on the engine goes and it's a bit serious. But from my experience, if they're well looked after, properly serviced, they do last. It's only when they're used and abused and not looked after, that's when they're going to let you down. So I hope you like this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And from me and the Hobbit, out with the dog somewhere, it's bye for now.